than that, I'm gonna go ahead and start eating. I'm sorry that my microphone wasn't on for the first 10 minutes. I had some mic troubles. I had to like restart my. I'm assuming that's when it decided, hey, yeah, you connected. I probably should have checked, but I forgot to. Alright. Chapter Yellowfang, Despot, and Six rushed forward to defensive queens lined up. Fireheart saw Cinder hobbling to Despot, got angry, traveled shoulders, window face, tugged at the Fireheart down from the arched spot. So Broken Star is here if you Broken Star is the evil one that was lost the last time. Never. Have more life. One thunderclap gave a war hearing. I heard life as an out. I heard I heard Broken Star struggled, gambling heart felt his claws. I heard lunge. Other claws grasping. Looked over claw face, staring at Iheart looked at Brooke, claw face, had merged thunderclap at Brooke, twisted her. I heard beats bodily felt her help him. Iheart hardly knew. Tom reared up. Thorn sharp. Pain ripped. Clawface before his yep. Clawface was on a minute. Spinning thought. I holy. Iheart help me. Suddenly, Iheart's face strike. Gray wolf eyes, paw facing, face stripe, paw face. I heard the spell. Blue stripe, face stripe shook his head. Brown bone. Blue stripe recognized. Yes, he is out of the phosphor, cuddling with clean all the time. These were the sullen H. Phosphor. A moment later, phosphor, Fireheart. You have given him a queen skidded to it. Sides heat, white fur. Another rogue warrior. Headed to the faced out. Let him speak. Grandpa. Tom was lying motionless. Watch out. Hammering him. Grandpa. Tom leapt to it. Sprang off him, grasping them. Flip them over. Only then showed like a rogue toward. There's one free moment. ThunderClan. Sessions. That didn't work. He's good. Looking. Okay, you guys should be able to hear it now. I was making sure I was looking at the audio input because I want you guys to be able to actually hear me when I page turn. Let's see. Where's the... If I put it down a little more. Yes. I want to also like tap it to where I can actually. I think that might be good enough. Let me try listening into myself here. Advanced audio properties. I'm trying to learn the new OBS system. I want to make sure I can actually, get everything correct. I feel like you can't hear it that well. I wonder if it's because of the noise gate. What if that's off? It's not capturing my computer for once, which is interesting. I wonder why that is. Not me trying to do tech stuff while I'm fucking streaming. Okay, I'm just gonna turn the noise gate off for now. Maybe that'll work. Alright. Where was I? Did I just? Alright, I just turned my page. That's why I was like, yeah, I want the I want the page turned, you know? Alright. Back to reading. Sorry about that. Where's Broken Star? Fireheart spun around in alarm, scanning the camp. Could he have broken into the nursery? Oh, ad starts in 3 minutes, you guys. If you have not already, please turn down your volume. Could he have broken into the nursery? He was about to spring towards the bramble den when a wretched howl from Yellowfang's den tore the air. Fireheart tore, crossed to the fern tunnel. Cinderpaw. He raced into the den, expecting the worst. But he saw, instead, Broken Star lying in a heap on the ground. The old medicine cat stood over him. Broken Star's eyes were closed and bloody. Fireheart saw his sides heave once and stop moving. He recognized the deep stillness in the rogue warrior's body. That Broken Star was losing a life. Yellowfang's claws were unsheathed and glistened red. Her face was twisted and her eyes glazed. Suddenly, Broken Star gasped and began to breathe again. Fireheart waited for Yellowfang to lunge at him with another killing bite, but she hesitated. Broken Star didn't let up. Fireheart ran to the medicine cat's side. Is this his last life? Why don't you finish him off? He urged. He murdered his father, banished you from the clan, and tried to kill you. It's not his last life, she rasped. And even if it were, I couldn't kill him. Why not? StarClan would honor you for it. Fireheart could not believe her words. The name Broken Star had always made this old she-cat bristle rage. Oh, hi, Ren. Welcome in. How are you doing? You doing alright? I think you can hear the book now. I'm trying really hard to actually be able to, hear the book. Yellowfang dragged her gaze from Broken Star and looked at Fireheart. Her eyes clouded with pain and grief as she murmured, He is my son. Fireheart felt the ground lurch under his paws. Medicine cats are forbidden to have kits, he blurted out. I know, answered Yellowfang. I never intended to have kids. But then I fell in love with Ragged Star. Her voice was thick with sorrow. Suddenly, Fireheart thought back to the battle when Broken Star was driven out of Shadowclan camp. Just before he fled, the cruel leader had told Yellowfang that he had murdered his father. Yellowfang had been devastated, and now Fireheart understood why. There were 3 kits in my litter, Yellowfang went on, but only Broken Star survived. I gave him to a ShadowClan queen to bring up as her own. I thought that losing 2 of my kits was punishment from StarClan for breaking the warrior code, but I was wrong. My punishment wasn't that the 2 kits died, it was that this one survived. Hey yo, what are you sending me on Discord? What are you sending me? Why are you taking the character up so much? Why is he so caked? Why? Why so caked? Why so cake? Why so much cake? Why so much cake? Why? You know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yellowfang looked in disgust at Broken Star's bleeding body. But now I cannot kill him. I must accept my fate, as StarClan wishes it. Yellowfang staggered, and Fireheart thought she was going to collapse. He pressed his body against her flank to support her and whispered, "Does he know you're his mother?" Yellowfang shook her head. Broken Star began to wail pitifully. "I can't see." Fireheart realized with horror that the road cat's eyes had been scratched beyond repair. Fireheart cautiously approached him. Broken Star lay still. Fireheart poked him with a forepaw, and Yellowfang's son moaned again. "Don't kill me," he whined. Fireheart backed away, feeling a shudder of revulsion at the warrior's fear. Yellowfang took a deep breath. "I will see to him." He walked over to her wounded son, grasped him by the scruff of his neck, and dragged him to the nest that Patchpelt had left. Fireheart let her go. He wanted to check that Cinderpaw was all right. He caught sight of a dark shape moving inside the split rock where Yellowfang slept. "Cinderpaw?" he called. Cinderpaw poked her head out. "Are you okay?" Fireheart asked. "Have the road cats gone?" she whispered. "Yes, except Broken Star. He's badly injured." Yellowfang seemed to him. He waited for Cinderpaw's shocked reaction, but she just shook her head slowly and stared at the ground. "Are you okay?" Fireheart repeated. "I should have fought alongside you." Cinderpaw's voice was choked with shame. So Cinderpaw is the old apprentice of Fireheart if you were here for the past two streams. If not, that is their relation. "You would have been killed." That's what Dustpaw said. He told me to go and hide with the kits. The small cat's eyes were full of despair. "But I wouldn't have minded being killed. What good am I like this? I'm just a burden on this clan." Fireheart felt a thorn-sharp pain of pity. He searched for words to comfort her, but before he could speak, Yellowfang's rasping mew sounded from the bracken. "Cinderpaw," he called. "Fetch me some cobwebs, quickly." Cinderpaw turned at once and disappeared inside the rock, returning a moment later with one paw wrapped in a swathe of cobwebs. As quickly as she could, she scrambled awkwardly over to Yellowfang and thrust the cobwebs inside the nest. "Now get me some of the comfrey," ordered Yellowfang, as Cinderpaw limped back to the split rock. Fireheart turned to leave. There was nothing more he could do here. He must find out how the rest of the clan was. Hardly any cat had moved in the camp clearing. Fireheart padded straight to Dustpaw and meowed. "Yellowfang is tending to Broken Star's wounds. Cinderpaw's helping her." He ignored Dustpaw's gasp of disbelief. "Go and guard him." Dustpaw ran to the tunnel and disappeared inside. Fireheart went over to Graystripe. The Grey Warrior was still staring at Clawface's body. "You saved my life," Fireheart murmured. "Thank you." Graystripe lifted his gaze to Fireheart. "I would give my life for you," he answered simply. Feeling choked, Fireheart watched his friend turn and walk away. Perhaps their friendship was not over after all. The sound of paws pounding through the gorse tunnel broke into his thoughts. Blue Star came rushing into the camp, followed by Longtail and Swiftpaw. Fireheart felt his shoulders droop with relief at the sight of his clan leader. She looked around at the blood-spattered clearing, her eyes wide until her gaze rested on Clawface's body. Broken Star attacked? She meowed. Fireheart nodded. Is he dead? He's with Yellowfang, Fireheart answered, forcing out the words in spite of his exhaustion. He's been wounded. His eyes. And the other rogue warriors? We chased them off. Are any of our clan badly hurt? Blue Star demanded, looking once more around the clearing. The cats shook their heads. Good, she meowed. Sandpaw, Swiftpaw, take this body out of the camp and bury it. No elders need be present. No rogue deserves to be buried with the honor of Star Clan ritual. Swiftpaw and Sandpaw began to drag Clawface towards the tunnel. Are the elders safe? Blue Star asked. They're in the nursery, Fireheart told her. As he spoke, a rustling sound from the bramble den, and Halftail appeared, followed by the other kits and elders. Fireheart saw Cloudkit tumble out and scamper excitedly across the clearing to Brindleface. She greeted him with a brisk lick, and the kit turned to watch Clawface's body as it disappeared away through the tunnel. Is he dead? Cloudkit asked curiously. Can I go and see? Hush, whispered Brindleface, tucking her tail around him. Where's Tigerclaw? Blue Star asked. He's taken a party to attack a Shadow Clan patrol, Fireheart explained. We found bones on a patrol. We smelled of Shadow Clan, so Tigerclaw decided to attack. I sent Brackenpaw to stop him when Yellowfang realized it was Broken Star's scent on them. Brackenpaw? Meowed Blue Star, narrowing her eyes, even though he might have to cross the Thunderpath. I was the only warrior left in camp. There was no one else I could send. Blue Star nodded, the concerned eyes giving way to understanding. You didn't want to leave the camp unguarded, she meowed. You did well, Fireheart. I think Broken Star hoped to lure all our warriors away from camp. We found bones, too. Graystripe told me. Fireheart looked around for his friend, but Graystripe had disappeared. Send Yellowfang to me when she's finished with Broken Star, Blue Star ordered. We pricked our ears at the noise of more claws in the gorse tunnel. Tigerclaw came racing into the camp, followed by Whitestorm and the rest of the raiding party. Fireheart craned his neck and peered around the warriors until he saw Brokenpaw. Not Brackenpaw. I'm just reading way too fast at this point. Fireheart craned his neck to peer around the warriors until he saw Brackenpaw, right at the back. The young apprentice looked exhausted, but unhurt. Fireheart let out a quiet sigh of relief. I think my model died. Oh, there goes. That was interesting. My model did not want to cooperate for a second. I saw that. I'm like, ooh. Did Brackenpaw reach you before you found a patrol? Asked Blue Star, walking over to her deputy. We hadn't even entered their territory, Tigerclaw answered. We're just about to cross the Thunderpath. His eyes narrowed. Was that Clawface they were burying? Blue Star nodded, and Brackenpaw was right, meowed the deputy. Broken Star was planning to attack the camp. Is he dead too? No. Yellowfang is tending to his wounds. Surely not, Mousefur exclaimed, and exchanging a glance with Runningwind beside her. Claw's face darkened. Tending to his wounds, he snarled, "You should kill him, not waste time making him better." "We'll discuss that once I've spoken to Yellowfang," meowed Bluestar calmly. "You can discuss it with me now, Bluestar." Yellowfang padded into the clearing, her head drooping with exhaustion. "Have you left Broken Star alone?" growled Tiger Claw, his amber eyes flashing. Yellowfang raised her head, and the look at the dark warrior. "Dustpaw is guarding him, and I've given him poppy seeds, so he'll be asleep for a while." "Broken Star is blind now," Tiger Claw. "There's no way he'll try to escape. He'd die of hunger in a week. If a fox or a gang of crows didn't kill him first." "Well, that makes this easier," Tiger Claw smiled. "We won't have to kill him ourselves. We can let the forest deal with him." Yellowfang returned to Bluestar. "Not let him die," she yelled. "Why not?" Fireheart held his breath as he watched the elder's eyes flick from Yellowfang to Tightclaw and back again. He wondered if Yellowfang was going to tell Bluestar that Broken Star was her son. "If we did, we'd be no better than he is," replied Yellowfang calmly. Tigerclaw's tail flicked with anger. "What do you think, Whitestorm?" Bluestar meowed before Tigerclaw. "It would be a burden on our plan to look after him," Whitestorm answered thoughtfully. "But Yellowfang is right. If we send him out into the forest or kill him in cold blood, StarClan would know we have stooped as low as he." One eye stepped forwards. "Bluestar," she meowed in her croaky old voice. "In the past, we have sometimes kept prisoners for many moons. We could do it again." Fireheart remembered that Yellowfang herself had been a prisoner when she first came to the camp. He waited for the medicine cat to remind Bluestar of this, but she said nothing. "So you'd really consider keeping this rogue inside our camp?" Tiger Claw's eyes blazed with rage as he challenged his leader. The king, Fireheart couldn't help agreeing with the Dark Warrior's words. The thought of killing Broken Star appalled him. He knew better than any of these cats what that would mean to Yellowfang. But Broken Star was a fearsome enemy. Even without his sight, keeping him in the camp would be difficult and dangerous for all the members of the clan. "Is he really blind?" Bluestar asked Yellowfang. "Yes, he is." "Has he other wounds?" Fireheart replied this time. "I clawed him pretty badly," he admitted. He looked over to Yellowfang and was relieved when the old she-cat dipped her head just enough for him to know she forgave him for wounding herself. "How long till they heal?" asked Bluestar. "About a moon," Yellowfang answered. "Then you may nurse him till then. After that, we will discuss his future again. And from now on, he'll be known as Broken Tail, not Broken Star. You cannot take away the lives that StarClan gave him, but this cat is no longer a clan leader." Bluestar looked questioningly at Tigerclaw. His tail twitched, but he didn't speak. "It is decided," Bluestar meowed. "He stays." That is the end of chapter 26. We are going to go ahead and start chapter 27. Chapter 27. Fireheart limped over to the clump of nettles and began to lick his wounds. He would go and see Yellowfang later, when she had finished tending to the other cats. The weak rays of the setting sun threw long shadows across the clearing. Dustpaw had been relieved of his guard duty by Longtail. Tigerclaw had taken the rest of his unscathed raiding party out in search of fresh kill. Fireheart's stomach growled. He looked up at the sound of paw steps, but it was only Sandpaw and Swiftpaw returning from their burial duty. Hey, yo. Well, thanks, I guess. Yeah, thanks for checking in, Yusna. You silly bugger. The two cats padded over to Bluestar, who was sitting beneath the high rock and with White Storm. Fireheart pushed himself to his paws and walked over to join them. With a flick of his tail, he beckoned to Dustpaw, who was licking his own scratches beside the tree stump. Dustpaw flashed him a doubtful look, but got up wearily and followed him. "We buried Clawface," yelled Sandpaw. "Thank you," Bluestar replied. The ThunderClan leader looked directly at Swiftpaw. "You may go." The black and white apprentice dipped his head and headed for his den. Fireheart signaled to Dustpaw again to come closer. The tabby apprentice narrowed his eyes and padded forwards to stand beside Sandpaw. "Bluestar," Fireheart began hesitantly. Sandpaw and Dustpaw fought like warriors when Broken Tail attacked. We would have been in much more trouble without their strength and courage. Dustpaw's eyes widened, and Sandpaw looked at the ground as Fireheart spoke. A purr rumbled from White Storm's throat. "It's not like you to be shy," he meowed to his apprentice. "Hi, Davy. Welcome in." Sandpaw's ears twitched uncomfortably. "Fireheart's the one that saved the clan," he burst out. "He was the one who alerted the camp so that we were ready for Broken Tail's attack." It was Fireheart's turn to feel embarrassed. "Bye, Davy." He was relieved when he saw Tiger Claw and the hunting party trotted into the camp at that moment, carrying plenty of fresh kill. Bluestar nodded at Tiger Claw and then turned to face Dustpaw and Sandpaw. "It makes me proud to know that ThunderClan has such fine warriors," he meowed. "Time you both took your warrior names. We shall have the naming ceremony now, while the sun is setting, and then we can eat." Sandpaw and Dustpaw looked excitedly at each other. Fireheart lifted his chin and purred. Bluestar called to the clan. Fireheart felt even happier when he saw Graystripe appear from the warrior's den. He hadn't left the camp, after all. The clan gathered around the edge of the clearing. Elders and queens sat with the apprentices and kits on one side. Fireheart waited with the warriors on the other. He looked at Cloudkit, nestled beside Brindleface. The kid's eyes shone with excitement, and Fireheart felt a rush of pride that his kin Kit could see him sitting with the clan warriors. Bluestar stood in the center with Sandpaw and Dustpaw. The last arc of sun glowed pink on the horizon. The clan waited silently as it dipped out of sight, leaving the darkening sky pricked with stars. Bluestar looked up and fixed her eyes on the brightest star in Silverpelt. "I, Bluestar, leader of ThunderClan, call upon my warrior ancestors to look down on these two apprentices. They have trained hard to understand the ways of your code, and I commend them to you as warriors in their turn." He gazed down at the pair of young cats in front of him. "Sandpaw, Dustpaw, you promise to uphold the warrior code and protect and defend this clan, even at the cost of your own life." Sandpaw stared back, with eyes gleaming. "I do," he replied. Dustpaw echoed her words, his voice strong and low. "I do. In the powers of StarClan, I give you your warrior names. Sandpaw, from this moment, you will be known as Sandstorm. StarClan honors your courage and your spirit, and we will welcome you as a full warrior of ThunderClan." Blue Star stepped forwards and rested her muzzle on top of Sandstorm's bowed head. One second, I need to clear my throat. And there we go. Sandstorm licked Blue Star's shoulder respectfully before she turned and walked towards White Storm. Fireheart saw her eyes flash proudly at her mentor as she settled down beside him in her new place with the warriors. Blue Star turned her eyes to the dark brown tabby. Dustpaw, from this moment, you'll be known as Dust Pelt. StarClan honors your bravery and your honesty, and we welcome you as a full warrior of ThunderClan. He touched his head with her muzzle, and he too gave the leader's shoulder a respectful lick before joining the other warriors. The voices of the clan rose in tribute, sending clouds of misty breath into the night air, as they, as one, chanted the new warrior names. Sandstorm, Dustpelt, Sandstorm, Dustpelt. In the tradition of our ancestors, meowed Blue Star, raising her voice. Sandstorm and Dustpelt will sit in silent vigil. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Sandstorm and Dustpelt must sit in silent vigil until dawn and guard the camp alone while we sleep. But before they begin their vigil, the clan will share a meal. It has been a long day, and we have reason to be proud of these cats who defended our camp against the roads. Fireheart, StarClan thanks you for your courage. You're a great warrior, and I'm proud to count you as a member of my clan. The cats meowed again. A purr burst from Fireheart's throat as he looked around at his clan. Only Tigerclaw and Dustpelt eyed him with hostility. But for once, he felt untouched by their jealousy. Blue Star had praised him, and that was enough. One by one, the cats stepped forward to take some of the fresh kill Tigerclaw's party had brought. Fireheart walked over to Sandstorm. We can eat together as warriors tonight, he meowed happily. If that's okay with you, he added. Sandstorm purred at him, and Fireheart felt a prickle of pleasure. Choose something for me, she called, as Fireheart dashed away to the pile of fresh kill. I'm starving. Fireheart picked out a mouse for Sandstorm, temptingly plump, for so late in Leaf Bear. He took a blue tip for himself and turned to carry his catch back to Sandstorm. Then his heart sank. Dustpelt, White Storm, and Darkstripe had joined her. He'd been foolish to expect they would share their meal alone. This was a time for the whole clan to share together in celebration. The thought reminded Fireheart of Cinderpaw. He looked around and realized he hadn't seen her named at the naming ceremony. He must still be in Yellowfang's clearing. He bounded over to Sandstorm and dropped the fresh kill beside her. I'll be back in 5 rabbit hops, he meowed. I want to take something to Cinderpaw. Sure, Sandstorm shrugged. Fireheart quickly collected a bowl from the fresh kill pile and carried it across the clearing. He was surprised to see Yellowfang sitting in her den. She'd been at the naming ceremony, so she must have come straight back afterwards. I hope that's not for me, he growled as Fireheart approached. I've already had my share. Fireheart dropped the bowl on the ground. I brought it for Cinderpaw, he answered. I thought she might want something. She wasn't at the naming ceremony. I've given her some mouse meat, but you're welcome to give her that as well. Fireheart looked around the fern-shaded clearing. Broken-Star's brown fur was just visible through the stems of Patchpelt's old nest. The warrior was not moving. He's still asleep. Yellowfang's tone was brisk, the voice of a medicine cat rather than a mother. Fireheart couldn't help feeling relieved. He wanted to believe Yellowfang's loyalty still lay with ThunderClan. He picked up the bowl and carried it to Cinderpaw's nest. Hey, Cinderpaw, he meowed softly into the bracken. The gray cat stirred and pushed himself to a sitting position. Fireheart. Fireheart stepped through the fronds and sat in the small space beside her. He dropped the bowl at her paws. Here, he meowed. Yellowfang's not the only one trying to fatten you up. Thanks, Cinderpaw mewed. She left the bowl lying beside her paw and didn't bend down to sniff it. Are you still thinking about the battle? Fireheart asked it gently. Cinderpaw shrugged. I am just a burden, aren't I? She looked up at Fireheart with sad, round eyes. Who's a burden? Yellowfang's growl interrupted them as the old gray medicine cat poked her head into the nest. There is going to be an ad in 3 minutes. If you have your volume up, please turn it down so that you are not asleep. Are you upsetting my helper? She meowed at Fireheart. I don't know how I would have coped today if I hadn't had this one. She looked warmly at Cinderpaw, her orange eyes soft. I even had her mixing herbs this evening. Cinderpaw looked down shyly and dipped her head to take a bite of the bowl. I think I might just keep her with me a while longer, Yellowfang went on. She's becoming more useful every day. Besides, I'm getting used to her company. Cinderpaw glanced up at the old medicine cat, a teasing glint in her eyes. Only because you're deaf enough to put up with my chattering. Yellowfang pretended to spit crossly at the young cat, and Cinderpaw added to Fireheart. Well, that's what she keeps telling me, anyway. Fireheart was surprised to feel a pang of envy at the close bond these two cats had developed. He always thought of himself as Yellowfang's only real friend in the clan, but now it looked like she had another. But at least Cinderpaw had somewhere to stay. She couldn't train to be a warrior. She'd feel out of place in the apprentice's den. Fireheart stood up. It was time he went back to Sandstorm. Will you be okay here with Broken Tail? He asked. Yellowfang gave him a disdainful look. I think we can manage, don't you, Cinderpaw? You wouldn't dare cause trouble, she agreed confidently. And Longtail is here to help. Yellowfang ducked her head out of the nest, and Fireheart squeezed out after her. Bye, Cinderpaw, he called. Bye, and thanks for the food. No problem, he meowed. He turned to Yellowfang. Have you got anything for this bite on my neck? Yellowfang looked closely at his wound. Looks like a nasty one, she growled. It's from Broken Tail, Fireheart confessed. Yellowfang nodded. Wait there. He padded quickly to her den and returned with a bundle of herbs wrapped in leaves. You manage them yourself? Just chew them up and rub the juice into the wounds. It'll sting, but nothing a brave warrior can't handle. Thanks, Yellowfang. Fireheart picked up the bundle in his teeth. Yellowfang led him to the tunnel entrance. I appreciate your coming, he meowed, glancing at Cinderpaw's nest. She was feeling pretty low. I think she felt bad after the battle, and then the naming ceremony. Fireheart nodded. He understood. He gave a last wary glance at where Broken Tail lay. You're sure you will be safe? He asked again with the bundle of herbs. He's blind, meowed Yellowfang. He sighed, and then added more brightly, but I'm not that old. Fireheart woke the following morning to find dazzling white light streaming through the den wall. He guessed it had snowed again. At least his wounds had stopped aching. Yellowfang had been right. The herb juice had stung, but he felt much better after a good night's sleep. Fireheart wondered how Sandstorm and Dustpelt had managed their vigil. It must have been bitterly cold in the snow. He got to his paws and stretched his forelegs, arching his back and curling his tail up over his head. ThunderClan's two newest warriors were bundled up, fast asleep on the far edge of the den. Whitestorm must have sent them in when he left on dawn patrol. Fireheart padded out into the snow-covered clearing. He could just make out Frostfur's white pelt skirting the nursery as she slipped out to stretch her legs. There were two bare spots in the center of the clearing, where Sandstorm and Dustpelt had spent the night. Firepaw shivered at the thought, but still he envied them as he remembered the thrill of his first night as a warrior. It had filled him with a warmth not even the hardest frost could have chilled. The sky was thick with snow-heavy clouds. Flakes were still falling. Softly and silently, there would be plenty of hunting to do today. Fireheart realized the clan needed to stock up if the snow was going to get deeper. He heard Bluestar call from the hideout. Clan cats began to creep from their dens and pick their way through the snow to hear their leader's words. Fireheart settled himself into one of the bare spots. It smelled of sandstorm. He noticed Graystripe sitting on the other side of the corner, looking tired. Fireheart wondered if he'd slipped out last night to tell Silverstream about the rogue cats. Bluestar began to speak. I wanted to make sure you all know that Brokentail is in the camp. None of the cats uttered a noise. They knew already. The rumor had spread through the camp like a forest fire. He is blind and harmless. A few cats snorted their displeasure, and Bluestar nodded to acknowledge their fears. I am as concerned as you are for the safety of our clan, but StarClan knows we cannot turn him out to die in the forest. Yellowfang will nurse him until his wounds heal. Once they have, we'll discuss this again. Bluestar looked around, listening for the voices of the crowd. No cat spoke, so she leaped down from the hideout. As the cats dispersed, Fireheart noticed that the leader was walking towards him. Fireheart, she yelled. One thing concerns me. We still haven't settled things with Graystripe. I've not seen you eat together for days. I told you before, there's no room for fighting within ThunderClan. I want you to hunt together today. Fireheart nodded. Yes, Bluestar. I was fine by him, and after yesterday's battle, he felt hopeful that Graystripe would like the idea too. As Bluestar walked away, Fireheart scanned the clearing, hoping that Graystripe hadn't disappeared again. No, there he was, hoping to clear the snow from the nursery entrance. Hey, Graystripe, Fireheart called. Graystripe carried on with his work. Fireheart bounded over to him. You want to go hunting this morning? Graystripe turned to face him, his eyes cold. Are you making sure I don't disappear again? He snarled. Fireheart was startled. No, I just thought, after yesterday, Clawface, I would have done the same for any ThunderClan cat. That's what clan loyalty is about. Graystripe's meow was harsh with anger as he went back to pushing snow. Fireheart's hopes plummeted. Had he lost his friend's trust forever? He turned away, tail down, and began to trudge through the snow towards the camp entrance. He called over his shoulder. Bluestar told me to go hunting with you this morning, actually. So you can explain to her why you're not coming. Oh, I see, you were just trying to please Bluestar, as usual. Graystripe hissed. Fireheart stopped and whipped around, ready to throw back a retort. But he paused when he saw Graystripe was crossing the clearing towards him, shaking snowflakes from his wide shoulders. Come on then, Graystripe growled. Lead the way through the gorse tunnel. It was a slow climb out of the ravine, with the boulders covered in snow. When they reached the top, the icebound forest stretched before them. Graystripe charged away at once, his face set with grim determination. Fireheart followed him. As he tracked a mouse around the roots of an oak tree, he saw Graystripe racing after a rabbit that had been foolish enough to stray away from its burrow. Graystripe pelted furiously after the creature until he finished it off with a well-aimed punch. Fireheart sat and watched as Graystripe padded back to him and dropped the rabbit at Fireheart's paws. That should feed a kid or two, he grunted. You don't have to prove anything to me, Fireheart told him. No, Graystripe answered bitterly. His eyes met Fireheart's, cold and angry. Maybe you should start acting as if you trusted me then. He turned away before Fireheart could reply. By Sunheim, Graystripe had caught more than Fireheart. Both cats had done well. They returned to camp, their jaws heavy with brush kill. They padded into the clearing and dropped their prey in the usual place. The spot had been empty so far. Fireheart wondered if they should go out again. The snow was heavier now, and a cold wind was beginning to blow through the ravine. Fireheart was studying the darkening sky when he heard Brindleface's worried meow near the nursery. He bounded over to see what was wrong. What's the matter? Have you seen Cloudkit? She demanded. Fireheart shook his head. Is he missing? His paws prickled as Brindleface's rising panic began to infect him. Yes, so are my other kids. I only closed my eyes for a moment. I just woke up and I can't find them anywhere. It's too cold for them to be out. They'll freeze to death. The queen swayed on her paws. Alarm shot through Fireheart as he pictured the last time a young cat had disappeared from the camp. It had been Cinderpaw. That was the end of chapter 27. We're going to go ahead and begin chapter 28 now. Give me a second. I really want to make sure that okay, there we go. That's the key. Chapter 28. I'll find them, Fireheart promised. Automatically looked around for Graystripe. The wind was rising and the snow was growing thicker. He didn't want to search alone. Fireheart rushed into the warrior's den and pushed his way inside, but Graystripe wasn't there. Sandstorm was just waking up. What's wrong? She meowed, seeing Fireheart peering around the den. Brindleface's kids are missing. Cloudkit too? Sandstorm scrambled to her paws, instantly awake. Yes, I was looking for Graystripe so we could look for them together, but he isn't here. Fireheart meowed, his words tumbling out in a rush. He felt a stab of rage, that Graystripe was missing yet again, right after accusing Fireheart of not trusting him. I'll come with you, Sandstorm offered. Fireheart blinked. Thanks, he meowed gratefully. Come on, we should tell Bluestar before we leave. Dustpelt can tell her. Is it still snowing? Yes, and it's getting heavier. We better hurry. Fireheart looked at Dustpelt's sleeping form. You wake him. I'll tell Brindleface we're going to meet you by the entrance. He bounded away, back to the nursery. Brindleface was still sniffing around in search of scents. Any sign? Fireheart asked. No, nothing. Brindleface's voice was trembling. Phosphor's gone to tell Bluestar. But don't worry, I'm going to look for them. He reassured her. Sandstorm's coming with me. I'll find them. Brindleface nodded and carried on searching. Fireheart and Sandstorm arrived at the gorse tunnel together and hurried out into the woods. Outside the camp together and hurried. I just reread that twice. God damn it. Mistakes happen. Outside the camp, the wind felt even fiercer. Reinhardt narrowed his eyes and hunched his shoulders against the blizzard. It's going to be hard picking up scent through this fresh snow, he warned Sandstorm. Let's start to check and see if they climbed up into the forest. Okay, yeah, Sandstorm. You take that side. Reinhardt pointed with his nose, and I'll take the other. Meet you back here. Don't be long. Sandstorm bounded away, and Reinhardt leaped over a fallen tree, heading towards the trail the clan followed most often. The sides of the ravine were even more thickly coated than they had been that morning, and slippery snow where the snow had frozen into ice. Reinhardt stopped and lifted his head, his mouth open, but he couldn't find no scent of the kits. He looked in vain for footsteps. Did their trail already be covered by fresh snow? He trekked along the bottom of the slope, but found no sign of any cats, let alone lost kits. The wind blew until Reinhardt could hardly feel the tips of his ears. No kits could survive in this weather, and it wouldn't be long before the sun began to set. He had to find them before nightfall. Reinhardt raced back to the camp entrance. Sandstorm was waiting for him, her fur striped with small ridges of snow. She shook them off as she came. I probably should drink some tea too, huh? There we go. She shook them off as she saw him coming. Any sign? Reinhardt meowed. No, nothing. They can't have gone far, Reinhardt pointed out. Come on, let's try it this way. He headed towards the training hollow. Sandstorm battled after him. The snow was getting deeper, and she sank up to her belly with every step. Training hollow was empty. Do you think Blue Star realizes how bad the weather is out here? Asked Sandstorm, raising her voice against the wind. She'll know. Reinhardt fell back down. We should go back and get help. Join with another search party, now Sandstorm. Reinhardt looked at the shivering warrior. It was not just the kids who might freeze out here. Perhaps Sandstorm was right. I agree, he meowed. Can't do this by ourselves. As they turned towards camp, Reinhardt thought he heard a tiny squeal through the wind. Did you hear that? He called. Sandstorm stopped and began sniffing the air furiously. Suddenly, she lifted her head. That way, she meowed, pointing with her nose to the fallen tree. Reinhardt leaped towards it, with Sandstorm right behind him. Squealing grew louder until Reinhardt could make out several little voices. He scrambled up onto the log and looked down the other side. Huddled in the snow were two small kits. Reinhardt felt a rush of relief until he realized Cloud Kit was not with them. Where's Cloud Kit? He yelled. Hunting, squeaked one of the kits. Her voice trembled with cold and fear, but there was a note of defiance in it. Reinhardt lifted his head. Cloud Kit, he called, peering through the snowflakes. Reinhardt, look. Sandstorm was on top of the log. Reinhardt spun around. A bedraggled white shape was struggling through the snow towards them. Cloud Kit. Every step was a massive leap for the tiny kid. The snow was high as he was, but he kept coming, and in his mouth he carried a small, snow-encrusted ball. A surge of relief and fury shot through Fireheart. He left Sandstorm with the others and bounded through the snow to scoop up the kit by the scruff of his neck. Cloud Kit grunted in protest but refused to drop the bowl that dangled from his mouth. Fireheart turned to see Sandstorm nudging the others towards him. They stumbled ahead of her, sinking up to their ears in the deep snow, but she kept pushing them on. Cloudkit squirmed in Fireheart's mouth. Fireheart dropped him back into the snow. Cloudkit looked up at him, proudly holding his catch. Fireheart couldn't help feeling impressed. In spite of the snow and wind, Cloudkit had caught his first prey. Wait there, he ordered, and dashed back to help Sandstorm. He picked up a tiny two-kit who was mewling pitifully and began nosing the other one forwards. The bedraggled group struggled back to the camp. Windowface was waiting outside the ghost tunnel. Bluestar stood beside her, eyes narrowed against the driving snow. As soon as they spotted Fireheart's party, they rushed forwards to help. Other kid. Then they turned and raced into the shelter of the camp. Oh, I see, I skipped a spot. Bluestar scooped up Cloudkit, and Windowface grabbed the other kid. Then they turned and raced into the shelter of the camp, with Fireheart and Sandstorm hurrying behind. Once in the clearing, the three cats dropped their frozen bumpers onto the ground. Fireheart shook the snow from his fur and looked down at Cloudkit, who was still stubbornly clinging to his catch. Bluestar glared at the three kids. What did you think you were doing out there? You know it's against the warrior code for kits to hunt. Windowface's two kits shrank under their leader's angry gaze, but Cloudkit looked back at her with round blue eyes. He dropped his roll and mewed. Man needed fresh kill, so he decided to catch some. Fireheart flinched at his boldness. Whose idea was it? Bluestar demanded. Mine, Cloudkit announced, his head still unbowed. Bluestar fixed her gaze on the defiant little kit and yelled, You could have frozen to death out there. Cloudkit was startled by the anger in her voice and dropped into a crouch. Get it for the clan, he mewed defensively. Fireheart held his breath as he waited to see what Bluestar would do next. Cloudkit had broken the warrior code. Would Bluestar change her mind about letting him stay? Your intention, Bluestar meowed slowly, was good, but it was a foolish thing to do. Fireheart felt a flicker of hope, and he cringed as Cloudkit piped up again. They caught something, though. I can see that, replied Bluestar coldly. She gazed at all the three kits. I shall leave it to your mother to decide what to do with you. I don't want to find you doing anything like this again. You understand? Fireheart relaxed a little as Cloudkit nodded with the others. Cloudkit, you may add your catch to the fresh kill pot, Bluestar added, and all three of you go straight to the nursery and get yourselves dry and warm. Fireheart felt surprised. Was that a motherly tone he detected in the Thunderclan's leader's voice? Windowface's kids stumbled towards the nursery, followed by their mother, while Cloudkit picked up his bowl and trotted off towards the pile of fresh kill. The proud tilt of his head made Fireheart's paws prickle with worry. As Bluestar watched him go, Fireheart thought he detected a glint of admiration in his leader's eyes. Well done, you two, she meowed, turning her attention to Sandstorm and Fireheart. I'll send Longtail out to retrieve the other search party. Should go to your den and try to warm up too. Yes, Bluestar, Fireheart answered. He turned to leave with Sandstorm, but Bluestar called him back. Fireheart, she meowed. I want to talk to you. Tone made Fireheart feel apprehensive. Perhaps he would relax too soon. Cloudkit showed some fine hunting skills today, Bluestar began. But all the skill in the world is worthless if he can't learn to obey the warrior code. It may be for his own safety now, but in the future, the safety of the whole clan will depend on it. Fireheart still stared down at the ground. He knew Bluestar was right, but he couldn't help feeling that she was expecting too much of a young kid. Cloudkit was still very young, and he'd been with the clan only a short time. Fireheart swallowed a pang of resentment as he thought of how shamelessly Greystripe, Clanborn Cat, was disobeying the warrior code. He looked up at the clan leader. Yes, Bluestar, he meowed. I'll make sure he learns. Good. Bluestar sounded satisfied. She turned away and padded to her den. Fireheart made his way to the warrior's den, even though he no longer felt cold. Bluestar's words had made him burn. He pushed his way inside, settled into his nest, and began to wash. He stayed in his nest all afternoon, brooding about Greystripe and Cloudkit. He knew that Bluestar was right. The pride and defiance he'd seen in the White Kit's eyes made Fireheart wonder if he really would be able to adjust to clan life. As evening came, hunger drew Fireheart from the den. He picked a thrush from the pile of fresh kill and set it down by the metal clump to eat it. It was dark now, and the snow had eased. Once his eyes had adjusted to the night, Fireheart could see the camp entrance clearly. He spotted Greystripe as soon as he appeared, and watched him walk to the pile of fresh kill. The Grey Warrior was carrying prey. Perhaps he'd gone hunting after all. Greystripe dropped most of his catch onto the pile. He kept a large mouse for himself, and took it to a sheltered spot near the camp wall. Fireheart's brief hope faded. The distracted look in Greystripe's eyes told him that his suspicions were right. Greystripe had been the silver string. Fireheart got to his paws and padded into the den. He had no trouble falling into a deep sleep, and as he slept, he dreamed again. The snowy forest spread out around him, glowing white beneath the cold moon. Fireheart stood on a tall, jagged rock. Beside him stood Cloudkit, a fully grown warrior, his thick white pelt rippling in the wind. Frost sparkled on the stone beneath their paws. Watch, Fireheart hissed to Cloudkit. A wood mouse scuttled around the frozen roots of the tree. Cloudkit followed his gaze and leaped silently from the rock onto the forest floor. Fireheart watched the white tom prowl towards the prey. Suddenly, he smelled a scent so warm and familiar to his fur quivered. He felt warmth breath on his ear and turned sharply. Spotted Leaf was standing beside him. The dappled pelt shone in the moonlight as she touched her soft pink nose to his. Fireheart, she whispered. I have a warning for you from StarClan. Her tone was somber and her eyes burned into his. The battle is coming, Fireheart. Beware a warrior you cannot trust. The squeal of a mouse made Fireheart jump and look around. Cloudkit must have made his kill. He turned back to Spotted Leaf, but she had disappeared. Fireheart woke up with a start and turned to the nest beside him. Greystripe was curled up, fast asleep, his nose tucked under his thick tail. Spotted Leaf's words echoed in Fireheart's mind. Beware a warrior you cannot trust. He shivered. The bitter cold of the forest seemed to cling to his fur even here, and the sweet fragrance of Spotted Leaf lingered in his nostrils. Greystripe stirred beside him, muttering in his sleep. And Fireheart flinched. He knew he wouldn't go back to sleep again, but he stayed in his nest and watched his friend sleeping until dawn light began to shine through the walls of the den. That was the end of chapter 28. We will move on to chapter 29. As the den grew lighter, Willowpelts woke up. Fireheart watched as she rose and stretched, then pushed her way out of the den. He gave a last glance at Greystripe's sleeping form and followed him. It stopped snowing, he meowed, desperate to break the ghostly silence that enfolded the snowbound camp. His voice echoed around the clearing, and Willowpelt nodded.
The rustling noise accompanied the scent of tiger claw and running room as they emerged from the den. They settled themselves beside Willipelt to wash, ready for the dawn patrol, I had thought. He wondered if he should offer to join them, since he could do with a run through the woods, but part of him wanted to stay behind and keep an eye on Greystripe. Spotted Leaf's words still lay heavy in his heart. He couldn't shake off the idea that Greystripe was the warrior that he could not trust. Greystripe insisted his relationship with Silverstream didn't change his loyalty to the clan. But how could it not? He was breaking the warrior code just by seeing him. Suddenly, Tigerclaw lifted his head as though he had smelled something. Fireheart tensed, his ears twitched. He could hear paws crunching through the snow in the distance, moving fast. The breeze carried the scent of WindClan. The paw steps grew louder as one, the warriors stiffened. The cat was rushing towards them through the gorse tunnel. Tigerclaw arched his back and hissed at One Whisker as he purged out into the clearing. The WindClan warrior skidded to a halt in front of them, his eyes filled with dread. ShadowClan and RiverClan, he gasped. They're attacking our camp. We're outnumbered and fighting for our lives. There's going to be an ad in 3 minutes, you guys. So please turn down the volume if you have not already. Tallstar refuses to be driven off this time. You must help my clan, or we will be wiped out. Bluestar bounded out of the den. All eyes turned to One Whisker. And to her. I heard, she yelled. Without mounting the high rock, ThunderClan leader gave a yell and used all the clan together. One Whisker's fear of scent filled the clearing as he watched the cats emerge into the morning light. As soon as the clan had gathered, Bluestar began. There's no time to waste, as we feared. ShadowClan and RiverClan have joined together, and now they're attacking WindClan camp. We must help them. He paused and looked around at the faces staring back at her in dismay. One Whisker stood beside her, listening silent, with wide, hopeful eyes. Fireheart was appalled. After the rogue cats had been discovered, he thought Nightstar could be trusted. Now it seems the ShadowClan leader had broken the warrior code after all, by uniting with RiverClan to drive WindClan from their home yet again. But we are Leaf Bear weak, protested Patchpelt. We've taken a risk for WindClan once before. Let them take care of themselves this time. A few murmurs of agreement rose from the elders and queens. It was Tigerclaw who answered him, stepping forward to stand back beside Bluestar. You're right to be cautious, Patchpelt. But if ShadowClan and RiverClan have united, it is only a matter of time before they turn on us. It's better we fight now with WindClan than later alone. Bluestar looked at Patchpelt, who closed his eyes and lifted his tail, accepting Tigerclaw's words. Yellowfang pushed away forwards and spoke quietly to the leader. I think you should remain behind in the camp, Bluestar. The fever from the green cough may have gone, but you're still weak. The two cats exchanged a look that Fireheart understood with a jolt. Bluestar was on her ninth and final life. For the sake of the clan, she could not afford to risk it in battle. Bluestar nodded briskly. Tigerclaw, I want you to organize 2 parties. One to head the attack, one to back it up. We need to get there as fast as we can. Yes, Bluestar. Tigerclaw turned to the warriors. Whitestorm, you'll head the second party. I'll head the first. I'll take Darkstripe, Mousefur, Longtail, Dustbelt, and Fire. Fireheart lifted his head as Tigerclaw called his name, feeling a thrill run through him. He was to join the leading party. You, Tigerclaw called to One Whisker. What's your name? Windbound warrior looked startled by Tiger Claw's tone. Fire answered for him. One whisper, he yelled. Tiger Claw nodded, barely pausing to look at Fire. One whisper, you'll be in my party. The rest of the ThunderClan warriors will join Whitestorm. You too, Dragonpaw. Are you all ready? They called. The warriors raised their heads and let out a battle cry. Tigerclaw charged for the ghost tunnel and they raced after him. Up the ravine they climbed into the forest. They were heading into four trees and the uplands beyond. Fireheart glanced over his shoulder as he ran through the trees. Greystripe was near the back, his face grim, his eyes staring blankly ahead. Fireheart wondered if Silverstream would be at the battle. Fireheart felt a pang of sorrow for his friend, but this time he had no doubts about his readiness to fight. After bringing WindClan home, he couldn't help feeling responsible for them. He would not let any clan drive them back to those ThunderClan tunnels.
Why did I say Thunderclan?
Thunderpath. To those Thunderpath tunnels. Spotted Leaf's fragrance filled his nostrils once more, and Fireheart's fur prickled. Beware a warrior you cannot trust. This was going to be a difficult battle in more ways than one. Greystripe would have no choice about proving his loyalty now. Even though the snow had stopped falling, it was hard work getting through the drifts. An icy crust had formed over the top of the snow, but the warriors were heavy enough to break through and sink into the softest snow underneath. Tigerclaw. Willipelt's yowl sounded from the rear. The deputy halted and turned. We're being followed, Willipelt called. The words sent a quiver of alarm through Fireheart. Had they run into a trap? Quietly, the patrol retraced their footsteps, alert and suspicious. A snow-laden branch creaked above, making Brackenpaw jump. Wait, it's Tigerclaw. The cats crouched in the deep snow. Fireheart could hear the noise of paw steps heading toward them. They sounded light, like small paws stepping delicately over the top of the ice crust. With a sinking heart, Fireheart guessed who it was, a heartbeat before Cloudkit and Brindleface's two kids appeared from behind a log. Tigerclaw reared up at them, and the kids squeaked in fright. The warrior recognized them instantly and dropped down to all four paws. What are you doing here? He spat. We wanted to join the battle, mewed Cloudkit. Fireheart winced. Fireheart, ordered Tigerclaw. Fireheart hurried forwards, and the dark warrior spat impatiently. We brought this kit into the clan. You deal with it. Fireheart looked into Tigerclaw's blazing eyes. He knew that the deputy was trying to force him to choose. Fireheart could either join the battle party and fight for the clan, or take care of his kitty pet kin. The whole patrol waited in silence for Fireheart to speak. Fireheart knew he would have to choose to fight for the clan, but he couldn't sacrifice his sister's kit. Cloudkit and the others must be taken home, safely by another cat. But which warrior could the waiting party do without? Brackenpaw, Fireheart called to Greystripe's apprentice. Please take these kits home. Fireheart waited for Greystripe to object, but the Grey warrior remained silent as Fireheart ordered his apprentice back to the camp. Brackenpaw's tail drooped, and Fireheart felt a stab of guilt. There'll be plenty of more battles we need to fight, he promised. But Fireheart, he said one day we'd fight side by side. Cloudkit's protest rang through the trees. Tigerclaw shot Fireheart a mocking look. Fireheart felt his fur prickle uncomfortably as the amusement rippled through the patrol at the tiny kid's words. But he refused to show his embarrassment. One day we will, he yelled, but not today. The white kid's shoulders sagged, and Fireheart let out a sigh of relief as he watched Cloudkit reluctantly join other kids following Brackenpaw back to the camp. I'm surprised by your choice, Fireheart. Tiger Claw sneered. I didn't expect you to be so keen to fight this battle. Fireheart stared at Tiger Claw and felt the blood pulse through him, so that his whole body throbbed with rage. If only you were keen too, he retorted. You'd give the battle cry instead of keeping us here while Wind Clan warriors die. Tiger Claw flashed him a look of loathing, threw back his head and yowled to the sky before charging on towards the Wind Clan camp. Fireheart and the others raced after him, past fir trees to the steep slope that led to the uplands. They bounded up, their paws made noiseless by the snow. When they reached the top, Fireheart battered by a howling wind that turned his ears inside out. The Wind Clan hunting grounds looked more barren than ever, the gorse hidden by a layer of snow. Fire! You know the way to Wind Clan camp, yelled Tiger Claw above the wind. Lead us there. He slowed to let Fireheart pass. Fireheart wondered if the deputy didn't trust One Whisker enough to let the Wind Clan warrior guide them. He looked back at Greystripe, hoping for some help. The gray warrior had his head bowed low, and his shoulders hunched miserably as the wind buffeted his thick fur. There'd be little help there. Fireheart turned his eyes to StarClan and sent up a prayer for guidance. He was surprised to find that he recognized the shape of the land even beneath the snow. There was the badger set and the rock Greystripe had climbed to get a better view. He followed the contours he remembered from his journey with Greystripe until he reached the dip in the land that marked the Wind Clan camp. Fireheart paused at the rim of the hollow. Down there, he yelled. For a heartbeat, the wind dropped, and from below they heard sounds of battle, screams and yowls as cats fiercely fought. That was the end of chapter 29. We are going to move on to chapter 30 and the final chapter of the stream, as well as the final chapter of book 2 of Warriors, Fire Knights. Chapter 30. Tigerclaw addressed the warriors in a fierce hiss that carried through the blizzard. Whitestorm, wait until you hear my battle cry. One Whisker, you lead us through the camp entrance, but take care of the rest. One Whisker began to race down the slope towards the snow-covered bushes. Tigerclaw thundered after him, Darkstripe at his heels. Fireheart charged behind the sleek gray tabby, through the narrow tunnel that led into the Wind Clan camp. The gorse was as dense and sharp as he remembered. Greystripe and the other warriors stayed at the top of the slope. A fresh wave of attack ready to strike after an initial barrage. Fireheart skidded to a halt, reeling at the sight that greeted him in the camp clearing. Last time he'd been here, in search of the scent trail that would lead them to the Nielsen clan, the place had been deserted and silent. Now the clearing swarmed, writhing, screeching, fighting cats. One Whisker had been right. The Wind Clan cats were hopelessly outnumbered. A fresh party of Shadow Clan and River Clan warriors waited at the edge of the clearing. But Wind Clan could spare no backup group. The whole clan was fighting. Princesses and elders, warriors and queens. Fireheart spotted Morningflower wrestling with a Shadow Clan warrior. The Wind Clan queen looked exhausted and frightened, her fur standing in ragged clumps. Still, she nimbly turned and scratched her attacker. But he was much bigger and knocked her easily to the ground with a heavy blow. With a yowl, Fireheart leaped and landed squarely on the shoulders of the Shadow Clan Tom. He clung on, the surprised warrior spun and tried to shake him loose. Morningflower raked the Tom with the claws as Fireheart dragged him to the ground. The Shadow Clan warrior screeched and ripped himself free. He ran into the prickly camp wall and pushed his way through. Morningflower shot a grateful glance at Fireheart and turned back to the battle. Fireheart looked around, shaking drops of blood from his nose. The fresh patrols of Shadow Clan and River Clan cats had joined the fight now. ThunderClan's arrival had even the numbers for a while, but now the second party was needed. Fireheart heard Tiger Claw's battle cry ring out, and a moment later, White Storm exploded into the clearing, followed by Greystripe, Runningwind and the rest of the ThunderClan warriors. Fireheart grabbed a RiverClan warrior, gripping him with one paw and holding him down with the other. He rolled the Tom over and thrashed at his belly with his hind claws. The RiverClan cat leaped away and crashed into a WindClan warrior. The warrior turned in surprise. Fireheart recognized One Whisper straight away and watched as he reared and attacked the RiverClan Tom without a moment's pause. Fireheart could see the fire in One Whisper's eyes. They'd leave him to finish this fight. A familiar hiss caught Fireheart's attention. Greystripe was battling with a gray Shadowclan cat. It was Wetfoot, the warrior who had helped them fight to rid Shadowclan of Broken Star. The two warriors were well matched. Greystripe thrust Wetfoot away with his back legs and spun around, looking for another cat to attack. Fireheart could see a RiverClan cat right behind Greystripe. Above the din of battle, he heard the blood roar in his ears. Could Greystripe attack one of Silverstream's fellow warriors? Greystripe leaped, and Fireheart held his breath. But instead of jumping onto the RiverClan cat, Greystripe sailed over him and landed instead on another of ShadowClan warriors. Fireheart heard Tigerclaw call his name. He twisted his head and saw the warrior at the other end of the clearing. The fighting was thick up there, with cats from all clans battling together. As he charged through the ThunderClan deputy, Fireheart felt Leopardfur grasp his hind leg, pulling him down. You, hissed the RiverClan deputy. They had last met at the gorge, where Whiteclaw had died. Fireheart threw her off and flipped over to his back. Too late, he realized he's exposed his soft belly. Leopardfur didn't waste a moment. He reared up and came down on Fireheart with all her might. Fireheart felt the wind knock out of him before the thorn-shod claws dug into his belly. He screamed in agony. As his eyes rolled, he saw Tigerclaw at the side of the clearing, watching him with cold, expressionless eyes. Tigerclaw, Fireheart yelled. Help me! But Tigerclaw didn't move. He just stared as Leopardfur clawed Fireheart again and again. Sheer rage gave Fireheart the strength he needed. He fought through the pain, threw his hind legs back, and pushed up against Leopardfur's belly as hard as he could. Fireheart saw a look of shock on the deputy's face as his stick lifted the warrior and flung her away across the clearing. Fireheart struggled to his paws and glared at Tigerclaw, burning with pain and rage. Tigerclaw met his gaze with a look of undisguised hatred and leaped away into the thick of battle. A blow on the back of his head knocked Fireheart off balance. He staggered and turned to see Stonefur. The RiverClan warrior was preparing to aim another swipe. Fireheart ducked out of the way and shoved Stonefur straight into Whitestorm. The ThunderClan cat whipped around and grasped Stonefur by the scruff of his neck. Fireheart tried to dart forwards and help the white-furred warrior, but claws held him back, digging into his haunches. He twisted to see who it was, and a glimpsed gray fur. It was Silverstream. The she-cat's face was twisted with battle rage as she reared up at him. Blood was dripping into her eyes, and Fireheart could tell that she hadn't recognized him. He drew back a paw, and he saw her long claws flash as she prepared to swipe him. As Fireheart screwed up his eyes, bracing himself for the blow, he heard an achingly familiar yell. Silverstream! No! Greystripe thought, Fireheart. Silverstream hesitated, shook her head, and recognized Fireheart with a muted gasp. She dropped back down to all four paws, her eyes wide with shock. Fireheart reacted instinctively, his blood aflame with battle. Without thinking, he leapt onto the back of the RiverClan she-cat and pinned her to the ground. He didn't struggle, as he drew back his head and prepared to give her a vicious bite on the shoulder. But as Fireheart raised his head, he felt Graystripe's eyes boring into him. The Grey Warrior was watching him in horror from the edge of the battle. The look of pain and disbelief in his friend's eyes brought Fireheart to his senses. He stopped, used his claws, and loosened his grip on Silverstream. The she-cat slipped away from him and disappeared into the surrounding gorse. Fireheart stared, still in shock, as Graystripe raced after her. Fireheart felt as if he were still being watched. He looked around and his eyes met Darkstripe's on the other side of the clearing. Fireheart flinched. Graystripe's affair had forced him into disloyalty to ThunderClan after all. He had let an enemy warrior go. How much had Darkstripe seen? Just then, Fireheart heard Runningwind yell for help. The Tappy warrior was grappling desperately with Nightstar, ShadowClan's treacherous leader. Fireheart darted through the throng to Runningwind's side. Without pausing to think, Fireheart leaped, grabbing Nightstar from behind. The Black Warrior howled in rage as Fireheart pulled him backwards and sank his claws deep into Nightstar's fur. He had fought side by side with this warrior only a few moons ago to help him drive out Broken-Star. Now he sank his teeth into Nightstar's shoulder with the same ferocity he had used against the former ShadowClan leader. Nightstar squealed and twisted in Fireheart's grip. This Tom had not been made leader for nothing, thought Fireheart, struggling to hang on. Nightstar scrabbled free, but Runningwind was ready. He pounced, and together the two warriors rolled across the frozen clearing. Fireheart watched this struggle and twist, timing his moment perfectly so that when he finally leaped, he landed squarely on Nightstar's back. He grasped him firmly this time, ready for the warrior to wriggle free. But Runningwind had a grip. Together they scratched and bit the ShadowClan leader till he screeched out loud. Then they released him, swinging backwards with their claws still unsheathed. Nightstar leaped to his paws and spun around, hissing. Fireheart saw the fury in his eyes. But the ShadowClan leader knew he was beaten. He backed away, his eyes darting around the clearing where his warriors were suffering similar treatment from the other ThunderClan warriors. He gave the yell of retreat. Instantly, his warriors stopped fighting and, like their leader, backed into the gorse that surrounded the camp. The RiverClan warriors were left all alone to fend off ThunderClan and WindClan. Fireheart paused to catch his breath, blinking blood from his eyes. Whitestorm was grappling with Leopardfur now, with Mousefur at his side. Sandstorm was battling with RiverClan warrior almost twice her size, but her opponent was only half her speed. Fireheart watched Sandstorm nip and twist around him until the RiverClan warrior looked overwhelmed. Dustpelt was fighting a smoky black Tom nearby. Fireheart recognized Blackclaw, the RiverClan warrior he had seen chasing rabbits in the uplands. Dustpelt was stubbornly refusing to be cowed by the blows and bites aimed at him. Each time he was struck, the young warrior turned and gave as good as he got. It looked as if he didn't need any help, and Fireheart guessed Dustpelt would not thank him for interfering in this fight. Where was Crookedstar? Fireheart searched the clearing for the RiverClan leader. It wasn't hard to find him. Now that ShadowClan had run away, the clearing was less crowded. Fireheart soon spotted the light-colored tabby with a twisted jaw. He was crouching low, face to face with Tigerclaw. The two warriors stared at each other, the tails thrashing menacingly. Fireheart's blood pounded through his veins as he waited for one of them to make a move. It was Crookedstar who leaped first, but Tigerclaw jumped nimbly aside and Crookedstar missed. Tigerclaw was more accurate. He turned and lunged at Crookedstar's back. The ThunderClan warrior grasped the RiverClan leader with his long claws and Crooked Stars went limp beneath him. Fireheart watched breathlessly as Tiger Claw bared his teeth, lunged forwards, and sank them deep into Crooked Star's neck. Fireheart gasped. Had Tiger Claw really killed the Rivet Clan leader? Crooked Star's pained screech told Fireheart that Tiger Claw had missed the spine, but it was a blow to win the battle. Tiger Claw released his opponent and let him race, yowling towards the camp entrance. As soon as Crooked Star's tail got out of sight, his warriors struggled free and pelted after him. In a heartbeat, the Wind Clan camp fell silent apart from the howling of the wind above the course. Fireheart stared around him. ThunderClan warriors were tired and battered. But the Wind Clan cats looked far worse. Every one of them was bleeding, while some lay unmoving on the frozen ground. Barkface, their medicine cat, wasted no time in rushing to one cat to another, tending to their injuries. Tallstar limped towards Tiger Claw, blood dripping from his cheek. As he watched the Wind Clan leader, Fireheart remembered his dream from moons ago. Tallstar had been silhouetted against a bright fire, like a warrior sent from StarClan to save them. Fire would save the clan, according to Spotted Leaf's prophecy. Looking at the Wind Clan cats, exhausted and beaten, Fireheart wondered if his dream had misled him. How could these cats represent the fire that StarClan promised would save his clan? Surely it was ThunderClan who had just saved WindClan again. Tallstar spoke quietly to Tiger Claw. Fireheart couldn't hear the words they shared, but he could guess that Tallstar's bowed head that the Wind Clan leader was acknowledging the debt he owed to ThunderClan. Tiger Claw sat up straight and accepted thanks with his chin held high. Fireheart felt a wave of revulsion at the Dark Warrior's arrogance. He would never forget that Tiger Claw had stood by and watched while Leopardfur had nearly ripped him to shreds. Here, Fireheart was shaken from his thoughts by the soft voice of Willowpelt offering him a mouthful of medicine cat's herbs. Fireheart heard his thanks as Willowpelt began squeezing juice from the herbs into the bite marks on Fireheart's shoulders. The juice stung, but the smell took him straight back to another time. Spotted Leaf. She had given him the same herb to treat Yellowfang so many moons ago. As the odor of the herbs wafted up, Fireheart remembered his dream from the night before. Beware a warrior. Spotted Leaf had warned him. Beware a warrior. The truth washed over Fireheart like a chill wind. It wasn't Greystripe he should be wary of, but Tiger Claw. How could he have suspected his friend when he knew that Tiger Claw was capable of all? Suddenly, Fireheart was sure Ravenclaw had been telling the truth. Whatever Bluestar had said, seeing the Dark Warrior's performance today, Fireheart realized that Tiger Claw could have easily killed Redtail and walked away without remorse. You fought well, Fireheart. Running Wind interrupted his thoughts. Brown Tabby blinked warmly at Fireheart. As he promised, I'll make sure Bluestar hears about it. Yes, agreed Willowpelt. You're a fine warrior. StarClan will honor you for this. Fireheart looked at them both, his ears twitching with pleasure. It was a relief to feel a part of the clan again. Suddenly, Fireheart's fur prickled. Darkstripe was stalking across the clearing towards Tiger Claw. He sat down behind Tallstar and waited until the Wind Clan leader walked away. Then he leaned forward and whispered urgently into Tiger Claw's ear. The two warriors kept glancing towards Fireheart. He saw, thought Fireheart, feeling dizzy with horror. He saw me let Silverstream go. Are you okay? Asked Willowpelt. Fireheart realized he'd shivered. Yes, sorry. Just thinking. Tiger Claw was stalking towards him, his eyes shining with spiteful satisfaction. Well, you're sure. I'll go and see some of the others, meowed Willowpelt. Yes, fine, meowed Fire. Thanks. Lilliput picked up her herbs and patted away. Vennywind followed her. Tigerclaw flattened his ears and drew back his lip in a snarl as he looked down at Fireheart. Darkstripe says he let a riverclan she-cat escape. Fireheart realized there was nothing he could say, no matter how difficult Graystripe had made things for him. There was no way he was going to betray his friend to the warrior. He longed to yell back at Tigerclaw as he stood and watched while a RiverClan warrior tried to kill him. But who would believe him? Darkstripe padded up to stand beside Tigerclaw. Fireheart longed for the wisdom and fairness of Bluestar, but she was far away, back at the Thunderclan camp. 1 second, I gotta clear my throat. There we go. Better. He took a deep breath, preparing to speak as Tigerclaw stared menacingly at him. Then it dawned on Fireheart that any disloyalty he had shown on Graystripe's behalf meant nothing to this great warrior. That wasn't the real reason for Tigerclaw's persecution of him. The deputy was still afraid of what Fireheart might have learned from Ravenpaw about Redtail's death all those moons ago. But unlike Ravenpaw, Fireheart wasn't going to give in to fear. His eyes challenged the dark deputy, and he growled. He escaped, yes. Like Cricket Star escaped from you. Why? Did you want me to kill her? Tigerclaw's tail lashed the cold ground. Darkstripe says you didn't even scratch her. Fireheart shrugged. Perhaps Darkstripe should chase after the she-cat and ask her if it's true. Darkstripe looked ready to spit, but he remained silent as Tigerclaw spoke. He doesn't need to. Darkstripe tells me your young gray friend chased after her. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us how badly she was scratched. The first time since they entered the battle, Fireheart felt the chill of the wind. The gleam in Tigerclaw's eye hinted at a veiled threat. Had the Dark Warrior guessed about Graystripe's love for Silverstream? Fireheart was still searching for words when Graystripe appeared, wheezing through the camp entrance. Look who's back, sneered Tigerclaw. You want to ask him how the she-cat is? No, wait, I can guess its answer. He'll just tell me he didn't manage to catch up with her. Not bothering to disguise the scorn in his eyes, Tigerclaw stalked away with Darkstripe behind him. Fireheart looked over at Graystripe. His friend's face was lined with exhaustion and worry. Fireheart padded across the clearing to meet him. Would Graystripe still be resentful of Fireheart's interference? Would he be angry that Fireheart had tried to attack Silverstream, or grateful that he'd let her go? Graystripe stood silently, his broad head hanging down. Fireheart reached forwards with his nose and gently touched his friend's cold, gray flank. He felt Graystripe's rumbling purr and looked up. Graystripe gazed back at him. His eyes were sad, but there was no trace of anger that Fireheart had seen in him lately. Is she okay? Fireheart asked under his breath. Yes, whispered Graystripe, and thanks for letting her go. Fireheart blinked at him. I'm glad she wasn't hurt, he meowed. Graystripe held his gaze for a moment and meowed. Fireheart, you were right. The battle wasn't easy. Felt like I was fighting Silverstream's clanmates, not enemy warriors. I'm gonna dismiss this sad snooze. We don't need it. It's literally like towards the end of the book. He lowered his eyes with shame, but I still can't give her up. The Grey Warrior's words filled Fireheart with foreboding, but he couldn't help sympathizing with his friend. This is something you have to work out by yourself, he meowed. It's not my place to judge you. Graystripe looked up as Fireheart went away. Graystripe, whatever you decide to do, I will always be your friend. Raystripe stared at him, his eyes clouded with relief and gratitude. Then, without speaking, the two warriors lay down, side by side, in the unfamiliar clearing. The first time in moons, the fur was pressed together in friendship. Above them, snow-heavy gorse offered them a brief shelter from the storm that raged over their heads. That is the end of book 2. That is the end of chapter 20. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So, uh, depending on what happens with the poll, I did say that I was going to have it open for a few days. So this is my typical channel, right? So I'm thinking about making just a ASMR channel for my Friday ASMRs to kind of separate it out. If you're new here, I do have a Discord, and that is where the poll is. If you'd like to vote on it, it's gonna be in the extra channel section poll. Hi Swash, no you're not. You're not new. Don't even lie to me like that. Hi Swash, welcome. Right at the end of the stream. Unbelievable. How uncouth of me to point out that you've been here before. No ad. Get snoozed. This ad just keeps trying to pop up. Anyway, so if you guys would like to vote on that, feel free. Other than that, let me try and see if I can find someone to read. Also, when it comes to book 3, it's gonna depend on, again, the poll, if I do it on like a new channel or, this one. It's gonna be interesting if I have to start switching between. You missed it? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. All the VODs get posted on the red button. So you can always rewatch there if you really want to. Who do I want to raid? Let's see. Who else is doing ASMR right now? Do I have anyone following? Anyone I'm following doing ASMR? Oh, Billy's actually doing ASMR for once. Is that the only one? Oh, Minari's also. I think I just go over to them again. No, I'll raid Minari again. They like the cat series. They like it. I can do that. Let me do that.